For most of us, our natural habitat is a large, busy, bustling city. But these concrete jungles of high-rises and traffic jams are also home to a vast population of feathery friends. And we're incredibly lucky because in Australia, all of our cities have millions of urban birds. You might think you know them, but hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered, is a world full of intrigue and drama. Oh my God.
It's quite brutal to watch. But of course that's happening, on a day-to-day basis to real live birds when they're just trying to live in these parks.
Over one day, I'll see how some birds struggle to survive having us as neighbours.
Unfortunately, there's just so much habitat loss. The large old trees they rely on for breeding are disappearing.
While others have successfully adapted to raising families in prime city real estate.
It's such a privilege to actually see in the nest, isn't it?
Very few people in the wild ever get to see anything like this.
2 of them.
And I'll discover an accidental safe haven for a critically endangered traveller.
This bird is rarer than a panda. Like, there are fewer orange-bellied parrots in the world than there are tigers.
The fact that it's right here on the edge of one of our biggest cities in Australia is mind-blowing.
Join me on an urban safari in Melbourne on Boonwurrung and Wurundjeri land. I'm going to spend 24 hours in the city looking for our most curious and cocky inhabitants, urban birds. It turns out there's a whole secret world right on our doorstep. It's 5:45 a.m. in Australia's second biggest city. Home to over 5 million people, Melbourne is soon to awaken from its slumber. In the bayside suburb of St Kilda, some of the city's smallest inhabitants are just about to set out for the day. These unlikely city slickers are usually more at home on remote offshore islands. So I want to know why these little penguins have chosen to settle so close to the city. But first, I'm actually hoping to see one. We are at the St Kilda breakwater, right near the yacht club, right near where you might have gone for a swim one day. But you probably didn't know that you were swimming next to the homes of the chihuahua of the penguin world. They're hiding underneath the rocks right now. But here before dawn because this is around the time of day that they want to head out to sea to have a bit of a fish. We've got special red lights out so that the penguins aren't disturbed because they don't really want to be seen. He just took a leap off a rock that was taller than he is. This is like a little belly flop into the water. I tell you what though, as soon as it hits the water, it just disappears. These ones below me sound like they're having a bit of a party down there. I'm trying to sit really still so that I don't disturb them and they can go out fishing. But the lighter it gets, they're less and less likely to come out. They feel vulnerable on land. They're not very good at moving on land. They're much more at home in the ocean. It's a real privilege to see little penguins living so close to the city. I'll be back when it's light to meet researchers who can tell me more about why they live here. But first, I have to make a very special diversion. There's something I don't want to miss. Here in the heart of the city is the Royal Botanic Gardens. This oasis of greenery is home to an astonishing 140 species of birds. I want to see how many I can identify by listening to the majestic dawn chorus. It's like the calmest, but also the most complex alarm clock that a city could possibly ever have. So, I've bought this special microphone. It acts like a super ear, so that I can record all the sounds today. Every single morning, the dawn chorus is different. The fruit bats are coming back into roost. And as they do that, a whole other world wakes up. You start to hear the small birds singing, like the grey fantails. The blackbird, which was introduced for its glorious song. But the two loudest birds that I can hear are wattlebirds this morning. There's two species, the little wattlebird and the red wattlebird. The little wattlebird sort of sounds like your neighbour's squeaky bed. The red wattlebird sort of sounds like that song from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Chicka chicka. And occasionally, as the sun is coming up, I can hear waterbirds, purple swamp hens. They're all talking to each other. It's mainly the males singing at the moment. They're policing their borders of their territories with song. As the dawn progresses, more and more birds join in. Many using their song to advertise their prowess to prospective mates. The day is going to be glorious. I can tell because the birds are telling me. As the city gets up and running, the birds too set off for the day in search of their first meal. It's time to head back to St Kilda to learn how the suburbs' little penguins manage to survive in such a built-up environment.
So we'll just go down to this nest here.
I'm meeting Flossie Sperring and Tia Scott, part of a research group trialling a new way of monitoring the penguins' behaviour.
Okay, cool. So if we just put the camera there and loop this around.
They're installing nest cams along the breakwater to get a more intimate look into the lives of these very secretive little birds.
And then the penguin will sit there if they come out.
Cool.
I mean, if you had to describe the little penguin to someone, how would you describe their character?
I might go with clumsy. Yeah. They've got a lot of character. And resilient as well. Clumsy and resilient. When they're hopping up these rocks, they will tumble and fall down, and people watching will be like, but they're fine. They just get up and go again. Yeah.
So shall we put the camera in?
Yeah. So we're just going to do little 10-second shots, and the idea is that hopefully we can put together some little stories from different nests and tell the story of each nest to the public.
Yeah. Hopefully we get this egg hatching at some point.
Oh my goodness.
It's hard because even though there's an egg, we don't know how far along it is.
Right.
So we can't really tell.
Could take 35 days, so hopefully it's further along.
This colony of little penguins came from Phillip Island in the 1970s and stayed. And with a population now of around 1,400 individuals, they seem to be thriving. So what makes this busy marina so appealing for these tiny penguins?
The population is doing really well, and the main reason is because there's a lot of good nesting opportunities inside the rocks, so lots of perfect little nooks that they love to bring little salt bushes in to make little homes. And Port Phillip Bay has really great foraging opportunities. So these penguins are often considered the lazy penguins because they just have such good success when they're out there looking for fish.
So they don't necessarily actually go very far. So they're not like going way out into Bass Strait to find fish.
No, they don't leave. They don't leave the bay. So penguins from Phillip Island will come into Port Phillip Bay to get food, but these St Kilda penguins, they won't leave.
Ah, that's very cool.
The last of the penguin cams are installed and ready to go.
It's really one of those moments that blows your mind when you realise that penguins aren't just out there, like in Antarctica, but they're right here in our cities. And the reason in Melbourne is because of that amazing breakwater and the fertile waters that surround it.
I'll be back later to see what secrets the penguin nest cams might reveal. Just like St Kilda's little penguins, another bird has found a way to capitalise on the city's built environment. And if I've timed it right, I should find them tucking into breakfast.
I'm almost at the 27th floor. And this is literally like a stairway to bird-watching heaven. Because up here are some really rare birds. And it's funny, right? Because actually across the world, they're really widespread. That doesn't mean you find millions of them.
In the building opposite, way up above the city, is a pair of nesting deadly raptors, Peregrine falcons. With a wingspan over a metre, they're the fastest animal on the planet, reaching speeds of up to 300 kilometres an hour. And up here, they rule the skies.
This pair is literally famous on the internet. Their love affair is more famous than Kylie and Jason. And this is the first time that I've seen them with my bare eyes.
Falcon researcher Victor Hurley has been studying these peregrines since the first pair turned up just over 30 years ago.
How did you find out about them?
In 1991, the building was going through a major refurbishment and workers on the rooftop were getting dive bombed by peregrines, and they called us up and I came out and identified the species and said, right, they've got eggs, and a lot of things happened since then.
Why is it that the peregrines are existing here in the city?
Peregrines have come here because there is enough food, enough prey species for them to live on and to raise a family. We've recorded them taking quail from the Altona grasslands, grebe off Albert Park Lake, various parrots from the botanic gardens and the exhibition gardens. They feed heavily on sparrows, starlings, Indian miners, feral pigeons, so there's a whole suite of species that they're taking. So that's one of the resources that's brought them into the city. And the other resource is these tall buildings are like canyons to them and cliff faces, and they've simply been looking for a ledge in which to lay their eggs on.
So we've effectively made huge rock faces out of our buildings that they can find a little posse to lay their eggs.
The peregrine's excellent eyesight, up to 8 times better than our own, means they can see prey from over 3 kilometres away.
Oh, here he comes.
It looks like one of them has just come back with lunch to feed the chicks.
Oh, it's like so fast.
I think it's the male, yeah.
Think it's the male?
To find out what he's caught, Victor and I tap into the live feed camera set up by the building managers 5 years ago.
That's Dad. He's brought in food.
Dad has got food. Yeah, what do you reckon that is?
So it's quite large, so I think that's probably a pigeon.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of meat on a pigeon, isn't there?
There is indeed. So now she's gently just feeding each of the chicks one at a time.
So gentle.
Isn't it?
It's such a privilege to actually see in the nest, isn't it?
Yes. Very few people in the wild ever get to see anything like this.
It's such a rare view into the private lives of peregrines that thousands of people have tuned into the live feed year on year. Over the course of 6 weeks, they have watched as the chicks increased their weight by 30 times, surveyed their city, and finally taken to the air for the first time.
Well, since the webcam was installed in 2016, it's been really interesting, the human response to this. The online community has really responded positively. So we've got a really well-behaved part of the internet that are just interested in what these birds are doing. It's extraordinary, and I think it shows people want to be close to nature, and even if they can't live in it, they at least want to be able to experience it and know it's still there. So the webcam gives us a little private eye view into the intimate life of this species here in the middle of a thriving city.
But it can be a dangerous place for newly fledged chicks.
The city, of course, has some unique perils. There's a lot of overhead wires, there's mirrored windows, there's freak wind currents around buildings that they're going to have to contend with from their very first flight. They've got to get that right. And so life's pretty tough. If they survive their first 1 or 2 years, they'll probably succeed on going on to breed and become adults. And the young that leave here, I'm sure some of them are breeding somewhere on a far-flung cliff that we may find one day.
Yeah, I hope so too. This year's chicks have finished breakfast, and it's time for a snooze. Melbourne's beloved peregrines are on track for another successful breeding year.
Living right in the middle of the CBD is fantastic if you're one of the lucky few. Like those peregrines all the way up there, they've found a cosy place to bring up their kids, and they've got a plentiful supply of things to eat. But not everyone's quite that lucky.
Other birds have to rely on their street smarts to make it big in the city. It's midday, and just south of the CBD is Albert Park, a popular lunch spot for humans. Also enjoying a feed is one of Australia's most loved and at times feared birds, the magpie.
I think almost everyone who lives in Australia has a story about magpies, because for some of us they're like scary swoopy boys, and for others they're harmonica-playing soul singers of the morning. But why is it that we actually all have these stories? What is it about magpies that makes them so successful in the urban environment?
Ecologist Farley Connolly studies magpies that call parks like this home. I'm hoping he can tell me what it is about cityscapes that they love so much.
If you were a magpie flying over this park, what would you see?
What I see is almost a perfect landscape for me.
Yeah.
So what parks kind of represent and urban parks represent is almost perfect magpie habitat. Because you have large fields of grass, which are perfect for foraging, and then you have trees that align it, which are perfect for nesting and for looking out for predators, looking out for everything else.
Yeah, we've like created this perfect magpie places, haven't we?
In the city, this kind of prime real estate is hard to come by. And over 100 magpies now vie for space here.
Territories are really specific. Say every 200-300 meters, you have a new territory start. And so territories are really strongly defined and really strongly defended. And they'll spend sometimes 10 to 15 years in a patch. And that's their life. And so you can go and know your magpies, you can know every single one, you can see the same ones every single day. It's so unique.
Magpies spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year defending their patch. And Farley and I are about to walk straight into the combat zone.
So right now we are exactly in between two territories. So we have the group we saw earlier to the right,
Yep.
and this new group to the left. And so we are sitting directly in the battle zone, right on the territorial line. And it kind of sits right now for us visually on this shadow. And pretty much anybody that wants to cross that line is entering another bird's territory. So these birds are defending it as much as they possibly can. And primarily they're just kind of shouting at each other, but they're also fully attacking each other. So they're also looking for a single bit of weakness, which is, you turn around, I'm gonna get you.
Yes.
So they're always looking for an opening to attack.
But there's another reason, aside from their vigilant nature, that magpies are so successful in our cities. And it has to do with their ability to quickly adapt to new things. City magpies have developed a heightened sense of curiosity. And when it comes to finding new food sources, fortune favours the brave.
Farley can demonstrate this with a simple test where a magpie has to peck a yellow or blue cap to find food. And it's not long before one comes to investigate.
Right, so what are you actually trying to test? Because you're not trying to test whether they can tell what colours are, right?
No, so we want to know, can they make an association? And so we want to see if it can associate food with a color, and then can it repeat that and repeat that and repeat that? And so we're going for, can it do it 10 times in a row?
Right.
Yes. So that way we know that it's consistent and actually is learning it versus just happenstance.
Look. It's looking. Yes. Oh.
And so there's a successful poke.
Once a magpie has had a few successful nibbles under the yellow cap, Farley tests how quickly it responds to change by placing the food under the blue cap.
There we go. And that's the more challenging test. And that is can they reverse what they've already learned?
And that would show you how quickly they can adapt to changes in their environment.
Exactly.
Right. So that responsiveness to their environment changing is something that's quite critical for an urban bird.
Exactly.
Oh,
there it
see
is.
that was a sharp jab. He really went for that.
You actually imagine it's kind of the beautiful thing about this test is it's mimicking what they have in the environment, which is they're digging and looking for little mealworms, little grubs in the ground. And so it requires that intense poke.
Farley's test demonstrates how magpies proactively try new things in search of food.
The fact that these birds are so willing to land and go to this piece of wood and interact with it, put by a human, it does show that they are really adapted to us, but also have this lack of fear of new objects.
Yes. So in all of your research, did you find out whether magpies actually are pretty smart?
Compared to other birds, yes, they are smart. They can do associative learning, they can do reversal learning, which in a way makes them an intelligent bird, yes. But it's so hard to say what is smart, what is not smart.
Well, I feel like they're more intelligent than some people I know. I don't know.
Well, fair enough, yeah.
All the birds I've spent time with so far, the magpies, the peregrine falcons, the little penguins, they've all been really successful in adapting to city life. But it's not so easy for all birds. Some birds are actually struggling quite a lot, and it's up to us to help them.
It's early afternoon and I'm heading to a small pocket of natural bushland in Melbourne's eastern suburbs. One vulnerable species of bird has found refuge after facing significant loss of habitat due to threats like land clearing and bushfires.
I'm on the hunt for probably the most grumpiest looking bird in Australia, also one of the fiercest predators, the powerful owl. There's quite a few of them in the city, and actually there should be some around here.
It's quite a big bird, actually.
But at this time of day, they can be hard to spot sleeping in the trees. So environmental scientist Nick Carter is going to help me find them.
So tell me, what's your favourite thing about the powerful owl when you see it?
My favourite thing is that they're just such a massive bird, but at the same time, they're able to be so camouflaged in the bush. So they might be sitting in a tree and you're walking underneath it and not even know that they're there. You've really got to be looking out for them. But yeah, they're a pretty secretive bird, and it's pretty amazing that they can actually live in urban Melbourne where there's just houses and development everywhere.
Powerful owls are drawn into Melbourne by the plentiful supply of food. They're partial to possums and gliders.
So what am I actually looking for?
So right now we're looking for signs that the owls have been in the area.
Like what?
So we're looking for their pallets, we're looking for some whitewash and...
Wait. Pallets? What do you
mean? Pallets, yeah. So pallets is the stuff they take in from their prey, but they're unable to actually digest.
Right.
So they essentially throw it up.
Oh.
And then it looks like a little pellet of just possum fur, bones, or if they're eating birds, then it might be feathers and stuff as well. So just anything that they consume from their prey that they can't digest.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a very weird afternoon looking for like our crap
Yep.
and our vomit,
Yeah.
basically.
That's my every day.
What a career.
Oh, here we go.
Right. Oh. Oh.
Yes. Oh, here's another one.
Right. So it is literally the
Yep.
fur and bone.
Uh-huh.
Look, your jawline.
That's a jawbone. Yep.
So it looks like mostly fur, but also some of the spiky bits of bone and teeth and things like that.
Yep.
And, you know, that unfortunate probably possum or maybe glider, it's quite small. So the fact that we've found a couple of pellets on the ground means that we're actually potentially close to some roosting owls.
Yep, it sure does.
What's the weirdest thing you've found in a pellet?
One time I found insect shells.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I wonder how they catch them. All right, come on, owls. Oh, hey, Nick, look.
Oh, nice.
Look at that. Oh my God.
So that right there, Anne, is 2 adult powerful owls. And I think the male has his back towards us.
Yeah.
And the female has her tummy facing us.
But he's like literally going like
Yeah.
all the way around.
Yeah. Fully turned his head around looking at us.
I feel like they're absolutely having eye contact, like straight through your eyeballs.
Oh, they're looking right through you.
Yeah.
You can see the talons really nice and clearly there. They're pretty huge.
And the barring on the back of the male, just gorgeous. The powerful owl's habitat is fast disappearing. And of particular concern is the loss of the hollows of old-growth trees that they rely on to successfully nest and reproduce. Those hollows can take up to 300 years to develop. In the next 3 decades, what do you see happening to urban powerful owls?
Well, powerful owl is listed as a threatened species in Victoria. There's just so many threats facing them as well, like logging or fire, habitat loss. So in 30 years, I really hope that they will be off the threatened list, but yeah, I feel like they're going to decline even more and then potentially even be listed as threatened nationally, not just in Victoria. Yeah, which is really unfortunate because they're quite an amazing animal.
So, without enough suitable natural habitat, what can we do to ensure the continued survival of our powerful owls? At Melbourne University, there's a trial taking place that hopes to significantly speed up the nest building process. Designer Dan Parker is creating an owl home of the future. A 3D printer is making Lego-like bricks out of a wood filament. The bricks will be assembled into a nest box and used as a test breeding hollow on a tree on campus. I've watched heaps of nest building in my time, but it's never been like this. Natural tree hollows develop into complicated shapes, so Dan needs to use a virtual reality template to guide him through this tricky assembly.
So what we've got here is an augmented reality headset, and it guides us where to place each block.
I would like to see you putting this together.
All right.
Let's have a go.
Okay, here we go.
The shape of this nest box is inspired by a termite mound occasionally used by owls for nesting. Each colour corresponds to a different sized block. Oh my goodness, it's so easy.
It's easy. All the pieces are just laid out in front of you.
It's my turn to have a go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I found my dream job. It takes hundreds of years for a powerful owl nest to be formed, but this, how long would it take from start to finish?
Well, if you've got a lot of printers running, you can do it in a few days. If we use a different material, for example, hempcrete, then within a day you've got a nest.
That's
If
mind-blowing.
you compare it to 300 years, it's pretty good.
Potentially revolutionary for our urban owls.
That's right.
This is the tree that's going to house the nest prototype.
So this is the great big Sydney blue gum tree.
She is gorgeous. This isn't too bad either, the product of your labour.
So this is what's going up in the tree.
Have you had a chance to really test whether the owls like these yet?
Not a good chance. So this will be one opportunity to see. And I suppose because we don't actually know whether the owls will take to this or not, we've fitted this one with some sensors. So what we want to do is use some data from inside the hollows, see who actually uses it, and then use that data to feed back into our designs.
All clear?
So the arborists are trying to slingshot or hook up there so that they can pull a big rope up so they can go up to mount the owl nest.
Ready for this? Yeah, go on, mate.
Look at him go.
It should fit perfectly, as the tree has been three-dimensionally scanned for an optimal fit.
It looks like a delicious big chunk of honeycomb going up the tree.
In the future, 3D printing could allow ecologists to order custom-built nests.
Man, he makes that look so easy, like just being up there.
So
I'd be
impressive.
a nervous wreck.
Creating much-needed homes for their local powerful owls.
It's satisfying. It's like the last piece of the puzzle put together right up in the top of that tree. It's a privilege to share our cities with birds like powerful owls, but it's also a responsibility. We've got to make sure that they've got places to live and nest, and that means protecting old trees, but also supporting amazing innovations like 3D printed honeycomb nesting boxes. And that way, generations in the future will be able to live with owls too.
Like the powerful owl, there are many other birds suffering the consequences of increasing urbanisation. In Australia, there are currently 182 threatened species.
Loss of habitat is absolutely the biggest threat to bird species survival. But there's a surprising place in Greater Melbourne that has turned out to be an unusual haven for bird biodiversity.
In Werribee, on the lands of the Wadawurrung people, sits the Western Treatment Plant. Up to half of all Melbourne sewerage ends up here. Traditionally, it flowed through a series of bacteria-rich settling lagoons. And while now they're being phased out in favour of more modern facilities, they're still full of insect-attracting nutrients and year-round water, creating a very special bird habitat. My tour guide will be fellow bird lover Sean Dooley, who once set an Australian bird watching record for seeing the most species in 1 year of birding.
It's not often that a man asks me to meet at the sewage farm and I say yes, but for Sean Dooley.
It may be a sewage farm, but for bird watchers, this is the happiest place on earth.
Since the construction of the treatment plant, the region has become a haven for tens of thousands of birds. Nearly 300 species have been recorded on site, even more than Australia's famous natural wetlands of Kakadu. And Sean knows the perfect vantage point to see the threatened migratory shorebirds that come to visit from thousands of kilometres away.
Probably most of these are recently arrived from Siberia and Alaska. There's redneck stints, they're the smallest ones, and there's also curlew sandpipers and sharp-tailed sandpipers, and a whole bunch of whiskered terns as well.
And they're basically, some of them are having a little bit of a rest, a little bit of a roost.
By the time the wastewater reaches these lagoons, all that's left is something very close to fresh water.
What they don't quite get rid of is the high nitrogen levels and the high phosphate levels. So that actually creates a really rich habitat and increases the amount of food available for these shorebirds that have flown, in some cases, 12,000 kilometres from their breeding grounds. So in some ways, having the sewage farm here has created a better habitat for these birds.
The Western Treatment Plant is now an internationally recognised and protected wetland.
You can get well over 10,000 migratory shorebirds here at the height of summer. That's a lot of our migratory shorebirds are, as a group of birds, they're our fastest declining group because they are losing habitat between here and the Arctic Circle where they breed, particularly in places like the Yellow Sea in China and Korea that have been developed so heavily, and the tidal mudflats have been reclaimed, as they say, and so they've lost those key stopover areas to feed on their migration.
As a self-confessed bird nerd, this place is heaven, and a chance for me to put my bird spotting skills to the test.
He sounds like he's right here. Yeah. What percentage do you reckon of bird watching is actually bird listening?
It's probably 80%.
Yeah, I reckon too. It's really high, isn't it?
Yeah.
I reckon I've just seen fly into the bushes like a bright green streak.
I can't be sure, but I think I just got a glimpse of something that looks like an orange-bellied parrot.
I didn't see it, but I definitely heard an orange-bellied parrot.
But orange-bellied parrots are like one of the rarest birds in Australia, right?
Yeah. They're less than 200 in the wild, and even just 5 years ago, there were only 2 wild female birds. This bird is rarer than a panda. Like, there are fewer orange-bellied parrots in the world than there are tigers. It's incredibly rare.
But while we can hear it, this critically endangered bird is staying well hidden.
It's just tantalisingly out of view.
People think of birdwatchers as really chilled, but they're incredibly angst-ridden because we know there is one of the rarest animals on the planet somewhere in front of us.
Yeah.
And we just can't see it.
Suddenly, Sean spots something.
I've got one.
There's one. I think that Sean's seen another orange-bellied parrot. There's 2. Yes. Yes, when you see its butt, it does look like a green parrot. But when it turns around, it has the most amazing blue monobrow that makes it look a little bit like a muppet. And of course, an orange belly, like golden orange, like a sunset. Like, these birds are next level. For a bird watcher, for anyone, this is an important thing. And the fact that it's right here on the edge of one of our biggest cities in Australia is mind-blowing.
Orange-bellied parrots have suffered severely from habitat loss and introduced predators. But conservation efforts are working. This year, the wild breeding population increased from 50 to 62 individuals.
Oh my God, it's right at the top. Yeah. Sorry, I just spotted it.
Yeah. 2 of them.
Look you can see his little monobrow. The monobrow.
And you can even see, I think that's a female, but you can see the orange belly.
Oh, so there's 3.
There's
3. Oh my God.
I can't believe like, I'm actually kind of tearing up because it's like, it's been about 5 years since I've seen them.
What does it mean seeing these birds?
To be honest, you know, we thought they were functionally extinct. Just a few years ago, we thought there's every chance these birds won't be here by 2020, and they've come back. It's still precarious, it's still a knife edge, but the fact that they're here, like these 3 birds, we don't know how many are alive at the moment, but that might be 3% of the world's population. Might be 6% if they had a bad winter. So, I don't know, there's something, they're gorgeous, and you kind of forget it until you see them again. So, yeah, I can't believe how emotional I'm getting.
It literally looks like it's had a roll around in some oil paints. Absolutely stunning.
With many urban wetlands threatened by development, the Western Treatment Plant remains a vital habitat for vulnerable bird species. It shows that wild birds can not only live close to our cities, but even benefit from them. It's late afternoon, and as Melbourne's commuters are starting to make their way home after a day at the office, I'm heading to the suburb of Elsternwick to see how a community-led makeover is helping to revive struggling local bird life. In 2010, urban ecologist Geo Fitzpatrick stumbled upon a species of bird long thought to be gone from Bayside suburbs south of Melbourne. On an unkempt golf course, he made a surprising discovery of a flock of eastern rosellas. And so began Geo's fascination with this patch of land.
When was it that you first came across this place?
It was a few years ago now. I was probably 12 or 13. I was on my bike and came across this little flock of gorgeous eastern rosellas and just thought, oh, what a treat. So I'd never seen them around where I lived, just a few k's over that way. So realised it was a special place and started coming more and more. And I ended up making a special study of the wildlife here and found that it was still hosting a whole range of species which had become locally extinct in the surrounding area. And even when it was a golf course, it was notoriously poorly kept. I don't think there was much herbicide that was used on this place. And there were also a lot of unmown areas, and that was part of its secret as to why it had so much great wildlife. So I wanted to learn from it and improve on it.
This former golf course is now being transformed into a wildlife reserve. The plan is to create a perfect haven for native birds in the city, with expanded wetlands, grassy woodlands and dense shrubbery. And even a small change like installing nest boxes for eastern rosellas has seen population numbers grow. But there's still a long way to go. There's a bird living here that's keeping other species away. The noisy myna is a native honeyeater that has adapted extremely well to the parks and gardens across Melbourne that favour open lawns and tall eucalypts. The problem is, noisy mynas are extremely territorial and will do anything to protect their patch. Geo's going to show me what that means for the smaller birds.
We'll see what happens here. I have a beautiful spotted pardalote corpse, unfortunately. And now spotted pardalotes used to be really common in this area, along with a whole host of other small birds which have just disappeared in the last decade or so. So it's a gorgeous thing.
And is that going to be what you're using to help us create a mobbing effect?
Yeah, so we'll see what happens if we play a few pardalote calls, maybe a few other small bush bird calls. The noisy mynas should be right onto that, and we'll get a sort of a bird's perspective on what it's like trying to live in an urban park like this. So we'll pop it up here.
So it's sort of going to act sort of like a lure.
That's right, yeah. most of the local small bush birds know not to come into the parks anymore. So this just shows why that's a good spot.
Here we go.
Here they come.
Here they come. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got like 8 birds in the top of this eucalypt.
They're checking the crown of the tree first. That's usually where a parrot would be.
Yeah, they're not stupid, are they, miners, by any stretch of the imagination?
And they're really gathering in numbers now.
Oh, there's even more. So we've got at least 10 birds up there, I reckon. Okay, now they're starting to descend.
Here we go. They'll probably just find it in a matter of seconds now.
Oh! Oh my God. Ah.
Oh. That's the end of the parrot.
The thing is that, like, that is a classic mobbing behaviour, isn't it? They're screaming, they're pecking, there's feathers flying.
Yeah.
Look at them.
Yeah, and if that was a live bird and that were to fly away, it would be incessantly followed.
Wow.
Oh, God. It's quite brutal to watch. But of course, that's happening, on a day-to-day basis to real live birds when they're just trying to live in these parks.
That's incredible behaviour, isn't it? Like, the social bond between these birds is one of the factors that makes them such a force to be reckoned with, isn't it?
And that's why you need really, really good quality shelter where a small bird can go and not be followed, where they can actually get proper respite.
This demonstration clearly shows how noisy miners restrict small bird biodiversity in the urban landscape. But small birds, like the parrot, have an incredibly important role to play in nature. They feed on insects called psyllids, or plant lice, that can sicken or even kill some trees. And the psyllids are covered by a protective, sugary coating called a lerp.
It's a food source that noisy miners rely really heavily upon, and other birds do too. The difference is noisy miners tend to leave the psyllid to then make another lerp. Another bird will come along and just chomp the whole thing. And you can see this tree is totally overrun with them, and that's a classic symptom of noisy miner domination. So it can end up really affecting the health of the trees when there's no small birds to control these insects.
So what are the implications for, people out there with their gardens in their backyard?
If you're planting a tree in your garden and your area is prone to noisy miners, as most urban areas are, look at stringy barks and peppermints before you start looking at gums, boxes and ironbarks and things like that. Even better than going for a eucalypt, go for a wattle or a she oak or something like that.
Something that provides a bit more dense cover. Well, I can't wait to be back here in a couple of years to see what it's like.
It's going to be really exciting.
Not for that parrot.
No.
Here at the Elstonwick Reserve, I've seen the ripple effects of human change on the landscape. Our decisions impact right through the food chain, from plants to insects to birds.
All the slithers of green that are in this city, along the sides of roads and in your backyard, or even on former golf courses like this one, we can make a real impact to bird diversity in this city. All we have to do is choose the right plants, just like what Gio's done here.
And help rewild areas of bush in our cities so that a wider range of birds might survive. As the sun begins to set, I've returned to the Royal Botanic Gardens, ready for tonight's dusk chorus.
Being here at dusk is an entirely different experience than dawn. The dawn chorus is like the full symphony orchestra. They're all going for it. But in the evening time, it's a much more subtle affair.
By understanding the secret lives of the birds in and around our cities, The hope is we'll find better ways to live as good neighbours. I'm meeting with the director of the Royal Botanic Gardens, Tim Entwistle, whose team purposely integrates the birds' needs into the design of their gardens.
It's funny, isn't it? Like, you're a plant guy, but actually you're also the host of a whole community of avian friends.
Yeah, and their food and their habitat and everything that goes with them, so the insect life. And as a botanic garden, you're quite right, you know, there's 8,000 different plant species growing here. But then in amongst those are the birds, and it is an ecosystem. I think we sometimes, you know, look for wild wilderness in a way to find our nature, but there is nature within our cities, and it's a special kind. It's a little bit different, but it's just as interesting and fascinating.
Yeah, and just as complex, as it turns out.
So that's a lovely thing.
It's in these details that we can learn the most about how we can help protect our bird life. Fortunately, there are researchers helping us understand how best to safeguard our urban wildlife. Like Flossie and Tia, who are studying the nesting behaviour of the little penguins in St Kilda. The penguins are soon to return home from their day out fishing. And I'm keen to see what the nest cam footage has revealed.
So, what do you reckon the penguins are up to right now?
So right now we'll have some in their nest sitting on their eggs or with their chicks, and then we'll have their partners and coming in from feeding in the bay.
So it's sort of a bit like shift change at the moment, almost.
Yeah.
Coming up to.
Yeah.
How is it that you've been able to keep track of how many penguins you actually have in this colony?
So Earthcare St Kilda have been conducting research on the colony for the last 35 years. That research entails coming out fortnightly and catching, microchipping and weighing the penguins. And so from that, we've got a population estimate of about 1,400.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
As the penguins begin to come in, they gather together for safety in large groups known as rafts. They wait for dusk before returning to land.
I just got to wait for these little rafts.
Oh, there they are. You can see them with the naked eye now.
Oh my goodness, they're really close. They slipped through our defences. Oh my goodness, look at them, here they come. At the moment, all I can see is silhouettes of their heads as they pop up, because their whole body is like underneath the water. It's like little submarines with a periscope coming up.
And you can just see their heads looking from side to side, figuring out where they are. Is that my home? No, not yet. Back
Landmarks,
we go.
landmarks, yeah.
As the little penguins waddle home, some return to a nest where a partner and egg await. Parents take it in turns to sit on the egg or go out fishing.
Gee, they go quick, don't they?
Oh, look, just here.
Their proximity to a good food source means St Kilda's little penguins have a much longer breeding season than many other penguin colonies. With the penguins safely home, Flossie and Tia check on the nest cams they installed earlier this morning.
So this is from the first camera that we put in, or the one we put in this morning.
You can see preening.
Lots of videos of preening.
You wouldn't think you could look so cosy in between a bunch of boulders.
Yeah. They make these like amazing little beds of the saltbush. They just look so comfortable.
So got one here of him bringing in, they're still building their nest. So bringing in the saltbush to build it.
That's pretty good. And then the partner's moving it around.
Moving it around.
Yeah. Making the perfect little bed for the
Oh
eggs.
my goodness.
Nest cams are a valuable, non-invasive method of learning about the secret lives of these little penguins, living so successfully right next door to us. It's almost 9 o'clock, and Melbourne is settling down for the night.
Now the daytime birds are looking for somewhere to sleep. And just like these humans in the apartments, they want somewhere safe and warm. And for the birds, that means they'll be in the canopies of all these trees.
But cities never sleep and remain ablaze with artificial light. So what effect does that have on our bird neighbours who can't just draw the curtains? Researcher Ashton Dickerson is studying the effects of city lights on one of Australia's most widespread bird species, the willy wagtail. She's discovered some living in this tiny strip of parkland close to the brightly lit central business district.
These she oaks are just gorgeous. It's like a little fairy forest right in the middle of the city, which I'm imagining has a fair bit of cover for birds.
Yeah, definitely. So this is a beautiful little pocket of parkland. We also have water bodies nearby, which is a good source of food, and the open grassland is a great source of food for an insectivore like a willy wagtail, and also these dense trees, which gives them some protection and also areas to nest.
Despite being a day bird, at certain times of the year, the willy wagtail gets very active at night, calling out to prospective partners.
They're a really interesting bird. They're a diurnal species, which means they're mostly active during the day, but they have this funny behaviour where they sing at night during their breeding season.
In your studies, have you found that there's any patterns to how they're calling during the night?
Yeah, so willy wagtails are what we call socially monogamous. So what that means is we have a male and we have a female, and they pair together, they defend a territory together, and they build a nest together. But they don't necessarily mate with just one another. So we see in some species they're more likely to seek these extra pair matings during the night. And we think that's to reduce the likelihood of being caught by your partner. So there's a whole lot of drama happening in the
There is
bird
so
world.
much drama happening.
All of a sudden, we hear a male advertising his wares nearby.
He's given himself away. Given himself away because he's basically screaming at the top of his lungs, isn't he?
Yeah, we've gotten really lucky. We've managed to catch a willy wagtail singing in the middle of the night.
Being so close to the centre of the city means this little park is drenched with artificial light. Some areas are 30 times brighter than a full moon. But despite this city bird singing its heart out, Ashton's studies have found that willy wagtails in urban areas are less likely to sing at night.
What do you reckon it is that's behind it? Why aren't they singing to the artificial lights as much?
Yeah, so when we move into the city, not only do we have an increase in artificial light at night, but there's other changes that come with the city, and one of those is a change in predator composition.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I wonder in these really bright city areas, it could be almost too risky to be singing at night. So instead, willy wagtails might be switching to other behavioural tactics to communicate during the night. Given that visibility is no longer a problem in the city, willy wagtails might be able to just fly around and communicate visually instead. Or alternatively, maybe the female willy wagtails in the city simply have lower expectations. They may have lowered the bar.
It is totally like Sex in the City 5, isn't it?
Yeah.
The willy wagtail is a resilient little bird that has proven it can adapt to the challenges of living in a light-filled city. But studies like Ashton's demonstrate that light pollution affects their sleep, mating and feeding patterns, and that may have a negative impact on their numbers.
Willy wagtails are so tiny, but they could have a big impact in the cities of the future, because this research could lead us towards bird-friendly lighting, wildlife-friendly lighting, right throughout the streets and parks.
Another day is beginning, but my 24 hours with the birds of Melbourne is over.
In just one day, I have found out so many birdie secrets. And I've also seen how science can be used to help protect what we still have in our cities. Because nature cannot be separated from our urban landscape. They are one and the same. So when you're out and about, Use your eyes, use your ears to discover what I have, the joys of urban birding.